So we've got Randy Spelling joining us this evening, professional coach and spiritual teacher. Welcome.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Good to meet you.
Likewise.
So if you just want to tell us a little bit about what you do and when you started and how you got started, how you got into coaching.
Sure. I got into coaching about 13 to 14 years ago, shortly after my father passed away. I was in the entertainment business before that, doing something completely different, but I was just never fully happy, fulfilled. And I knew I was here to work with people in a different way and do something different. And so I wanted to change. Someone suggested life coaching. Back then, it wasn't a very popular term, but I started to study about it, and it checked a lot of boxes for me of interpersonal skills. I got a chance to work on myself while working with other people, and I thought, okay, I'll take a course. And I had to get a certain amount of hours in this course. And while I was taking this, it was suggested to coach as many people as possible. And when I started coaching people, I fell in love with the idea, especially, back then when I was starting out. I don't have to have all the answers to be able to help someone. And I think what that brought up for me is really, wow, we don't have to be the absolute best. We don't have to be perfect in order to do it, right? I don't have to take up a new sport and be great at it just to enjoy it and continue to do it. And luckily, through the years, I think I've gotten pretty good at my craft and what I do, and working with people and reading people. And over the last 13, 14 years, I've built up a practice and ways of working with people that allow them to get the results that they want. You asked how, what is it that I do? How do I work with people? Simply, I work with people to achieve the goals that they want. Those goals might vary. I do a lot of communication work, whether it's in families, with couples, people who want to set boundaries for themselves. Yeah. So there's a lot of communication. I have helped people grow their businesses, start new businesses, redefine what success means for them, because a lot of people chase success without the clarity of what success is for them. So it could be a dollar amount, or it could be this idea of what they see from someone else or who they're comparing to. And the reason why they're not getting that exactly as fast as they want is because that definition isn't working for them. That comparing to that person or wanting that amount isn't the driving force that's going to get them to take the actions that they need and stay motivated every day, because there's a big why that's missing. There's a purpose that hasn't yet emerged that they need to become friendly with.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you say that, because it really is about that authentic reason for why we do things. And if it feels right, or if we've got that insecurity and we're competing with someone, that's always a bad place to start, right? So it's yes. Like you said, it's a matter of getting our priorities sort of clean and clear and authentic and for the right reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. So so now are you doing training or coaching online?
Yeah, I've been doing coaching online this whole time, but since the pandemic started, I just moved my whole business online. It didn't really affect me much. I mean, because of technology, it's really easy to coach people all over the world and do trainings like that.
That's yeah. So you've never done sort of one-on-ones in person? It never started like that?
Yeah. I did one-on-ones for a long time, up until a year ago. And then, it's just been screen to screen.
Exactly. It kind of works though, doesn't it? as much as we'd rather have that people contact, I think it does work. There's a place for it.
Yeah, I love both. I love, because I do so much on the phone and online. I love screen to screen. I'm used to it. In terms of what I do, it doesn't affect the result that I get with people. People get really, they can do really powerful work, even if I don't see them. But there is something about being in person. There's more of a transference of energy that happens. And so I've worked with people one-on-one for 6 months or a year at a time. And then they've come and done a 2-day intensive, a little personalized retreat. And it was really interesting to see the difference between spending an hour online together on the phone and doing 2 days where we're immersed in each other's presence and we're really working in that way. The energy is just more, probably similar to how people go to seminars and things and they get all amped up because they feel the energy of all the other people being there.
Yeah. Speaking of that sort of thing, were you ever into Tony Robbins years ago and those sort of motivational speakers, or anyone else that inspired you?
Yeah, I really respect Tony Robbins. I mean, he was really one of the first. He was the first life coach, I guess you could say. And everyone has a definition of what a life coach is, but I think he was really doing a lot of that way back when. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for him. I've had some great mentors and people who have inspired me over the years. And quite humbly, I feel that everyone that I've studied, every book that I've read, I probably consciously and unconsciously pull from their material. Anytime it's conscious, I always cite, hey, this is so-and-so, or I pick this up from here. But, just like when you're writing a book or reading a book, none of that information is brand new. It's all coming from somewhere. And there's really few truths. It's really how do you say these few truths in ways that get people to pay attention, to get things to land so that they will integrate that.
That's right. And that's right. And everyone says it in a different way. And, a lot of people sort of are doing this sort of thing. But it's interesting that you're doing it too, because you've got that life experience. You've seen a different side of things, like you were saying before, you're in the entertainment business. So you've got a lot of life experience with people, socializing, interactions, that sort of thing. And it's just interesting to hear things from your point of view. And it's a great thing. I've seen some of your videos. You say some really profound things. But what I just wanted to ask you is, if someone is sort of trying to get their goals clear and straight, and, they're a bit sort of confused as to where to go, what would you say to them with the goal setting thing? I mean, you mentioned earlier the why, sort of get into the really authentic reasons for things, but how do you sort of start the plan of positivity, just clearing the clutter in the mind when people are stuck?
Yeah, I think you have to get touchy-feely with it. Right? Because there's this very linear, even when you talk about goal setting, there's something very unsexy about that. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to set my goals and I'm going to chart a path to take the steps to reach my goals. And the mind is really a supercomputer. And so what happens, and this is just what I've seen, is people say that they'll have a goal, but they don't know why they have that goal. I want to start this business, right? I want to lose weight. Okay, great. Why? Well, because I don't feel good, right? Or I'm really upset when I look in the mirror and I've let myself go and I just can't seem to get back on track and do the things I need to do. So it's the easy part is actually saying, okay, what's the goal? Lose weight. Okay, what are the steps to get there? Well, I have to change the way I'm eating. I have to exercise. there's no magic pill.
Mm.
The magic comes in, that's still very linear. But what are the feelings behind it? What is the discomfort that you're feeling? And how do you turn that energy? Because I think we can all relate to discomfort around a certain topic, right? There's always something that may, at a stressful time, keep you up at night. There's a thought, there's a feeling behind it. Get into that feeling and say, how can I take the energy from that feeling and turn that into motivation? Why do I want this? What is the goal beneath the goal? What's the feeling that I want? I want to look at myself and love myself and feel good. I want my kids to see that I'm loving myself, that I'm treating myself well. I want my kids to stop commenting that they're worried about my health, right? There's motivation in that because someone might not be able to do it for themselves easily, but they'll do things for other people.
That's true.
Right? If their family comes to them with tears saying, I'm worried that you're going to have a heart attack or you're going to die or, this and that, there's more motivation there. There's more juice. So you have to take the touchy-feely. What is the vision? What do you want? What would life be like if you had that? If you were, trimmer and more fit and you were treating yourself really well, what would you do? What vacations would you go on? What would your confidence level be? And someone can then start seeing the possibility. Because the problem is people get really stuck in how they're not meeting their goal. And then they try and they quote unquote fail. And they try and then they fail. And all they're seeing is failure. All they're seeing is can't. And they get stuck in that neural pathway of can't. So if they start to envision the possibility of, just like you may not be able to see something or see that it's possible, but then you have a really vivid dream. And in that dream, you got that lump of money, or you were living with that son that you really wanted, or you had a new healthy body, or a great relationship. If your relationship's strained, all of a sudden that dream is so vivid, that's now in the mind. And that person goes, can make that bridge. It's possible.
And do you notice a lot of, that's a good point that you make. And because it just reminds me of that, like they do say as well, that we have to see things, we have to visualize, that visualization. You hear sort of athletes saying that before a race, they visualize winning and things like that, or anything. An actor in a film are visualizing a great take, a great scene, being successful and confident, not having that fear, because even the best in any craft, we're all nervous, we're all human, we want to do good, but it's just channeling it, like you were saying before, just to getting it right. But what I was going to say is that, do you notice that people put a lot of pressure on themselves and there's that fear? I think that's a lot of it too, because it's like everyone's equipped with the right answers and all the tools to be successful, but it's, I think, what is it, putting too much pressure on oneself, fear. It's all these things that are not tangible, but really dominate our lives, our emotions.
I think you're right about that. Fear is a big contributing factor. And it's not fear itself, like fear if I'm not going to be able to do it. Sure, there's some of that.
Yeah.
That's not the real fear, though. The real fear is there's an idea that I'm a failure. There's an idea that I don't deserve it. There's an idea that I can't do that. And so if I try and I don't succeed, the fear is that idea is going to be confirmed, and that's painful.
Yeah, right.
And we do anything we can to avoid pain.
Yeah. So it's really about building confidence too, I suppose, when because you said a spiritual teacher too. So I think that's very important, isn't it, in our lives, a spiritual element, because I mean, we all ask that question at certain points in our life, and sometimes stronger than others, and then we get to a point where we have more clarity. But how does a spiritual aspect of it sort of play into when you're talking to people? How does that work?
Everything I do, really, at the base of it, comes from a spiritual place. What does that mean? Doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's a connection with, all that is, connection with one. So the way that I look at things is like, there really is no separation. And we are taught to really separate things. My belief is this, and because your belief, we see this politically, right? Things are so polarized. It's like, well, I'm right, you're wrong, and therefore we're separate. Now I'm against you. And so fundamentally, the way that I go about everything, even if it's just goal setting, is really, how can you feel your best? How can your life reflect the most fullness and aliveness possible, so that you might meet your goal today, you might not, but that you love yourself and love life enough to be appreciative for it all.
Yeah.
And so, there are very grounded tools and techniques that I teach. And even when I started off, that I sort of got in this category where everyone was just going, well, if, Randy is the coach, they were missing this whole spiritual side of me. And I had to ask myself, I wonder why some people were missing that, right? Like they would, maybe after a few sessions or whatever, some clients would go, well, I kind of think this, but I don't know what your beliefs are. And I was very interested, thinking, well, how do they not know this about me? I feel like I kind of wear this on my sleeve. But at that point, I was trying to fit a role. I was trying to be the professional coach who had to do things by the book and be very proper and whatever. And when I realized that, it was a huge aha for me. I said, I'm going to be all of me. I'm going to use my intuition. I'm going to use the gifts that I have. I'm going to be me, because I'm not showing this part of myself. And so when I did that, it was amazing how, even with all my clients, this new depth opened up to talk about a level of spirituality, depending on where someone's at, because that is a big part. If we get too stuck and mired in the concreteness and dense heaviness of the desk and the room around me and what's going on in the world, there's something missing. We forget the awe and the wonder and the magic that we have even inside our bodies and our cells and our brains. I mean, we are walking around and science doesn't even fully understand a third of what's going on in here. There's a wonder and just a magic in and of itself of that.
And we hear sort of different people saying as well, what we think we manifest. And like, even like I was talking to you before we started this chat, just off air, and I was saying about Ayurvedic medicine and the different concepts there. And even a few people were saying that, even the way we drink water, we have to, they said, get a glass of water. Okay, look at it, maybe say a little blessing. Okay, let this water purify me. And they said, even the way we consume food and water, we have to do it sort of mindfully, and our body sort of assimilates it differently. If we think a certain way, like they say, you shouldn't eat on the run and, go for a walk and sort of eat a pie walking. Why not sit down and enjoy the process? It's a very beautiful thing to eat. Like, really, we underestimate eating. They said, if you don't eat for 3 days, notice how your body is. It's so bad. Right. I mean, we can think clearer with the correct food. It's just all about that sort of thing too. And I found that fascinating, something that we take advantage of or don't put that much importance on. But how good is it when we eat mindfully or enjoy that milkshake, not just scoff it down and run off? It's like, oh, did I have that?
You bring up an interesting point. Beautifully said, by the way.
Thank you.
I think that is what everyone is searching for.
Yeah.
But it's elusive because we haven't been trained like this. We have not been taught this.
That's
And
interesting you
so, and
say
I'm
that.
completely,
Wow.
yeah, it's, if we were taught this from the time we were toddlers on, there would be no doubt, right? Just the same as it's, you get sick, you take an antibiotic. So people in Western medicine, you grow up and you say, oh, okay, I get sick, I have a cough, I have something, or my mucus is colored, I need an antibiotic. That's it. And there's nothing else that exists. And you go to Eastern medicine and you see, oh, but some of that's normal. That's the body's way of trying to heal and move things out. So there are different ways of looking at this. We're not taught about our own energy and the power of this energy. So the power of the energy of thought and the power, the energy of imagination. A little bit is known about that, right?
Yes.
And the power of intention. Like you said, holding the glass of water and charging that water. If there was science and we knew that the water changed, which I think there's a Dr. Emoto, which showed this, but again,
Yes.
it's not mainstream, right? So it
Right.
kind of falls in the bucket of, oh, that's woo-wooey and whatever. You can change the water crystals, but it makes sense.
It does.
That if you play music that is beautiful, that is positive, that, you know, evokes this emotion in most people, water is going to restructure itself based on what it's hearing. I would
100%.
say people who aren't wooey, like you could go into a room and if something really terrible is happening or there's a lot of tension, you can feel it. Why? It's the same thing. There's an energy in that room. You're responding to that energy. Again, it's easier to see in that context. But then when we look at a cup of water, it's like, wait, this energy can go into that cup of water and then help to catalyze something within me.
It's interesting. Yeah, and I did speak to someone recently about plant music. I interviewed someone, and they said that plants, you know, feel things as well. And I don't know if you've seen that study that they got people to walk past a plant. It was this study, and they were walking past, and then they asked someone to break a piece of the plant off. So they broke a branch off, and they had a little sort of pads on the plant to identify the movement of the plant. And then the person walked past. About half an hour later, they didn't touch the plant, but just the person walking past, the plant reacted. And I remember seeing that years ago. And there is a lot of research on even plants and energy. Like that's why they say go for a walk in nature. You know, the trees provide an energy. It's you know, tree hugging. Again, people think the woo woo. You know, someone's crazy to hug a tree, but no, it has energy. There's that other side of things as well that's interesting. Like we were saying, the things we don't necessarily understand. There's not a lot of research in, but there's something there, like the energy we're talking about.
Absolutely. There's so many emerging fields. I mean, quantum physics, neuroscience. To me, it's really exciting to see how some people can talk about these things now in a scientific way. Is actually deeply spiritual. I see the cross connection very matter of factly when it comes to that. It's just, I was going to share with you, I think it's a study out of Japan. Forest bathing became really popular in Japan. I read an article that for, I think, 20, 30 years, people in Japan have done this thing called forest bathing, where they go into the forest on a hike, as we would call it. But instead of just a hike to get to this place and do a switchback and walk back out, or being on our earbuds or headphones and listening to podcasts, they're actually going in the forest, taking in the sights, the sounds, the smells, the dappled sunlight that's coming through the trees, the way that the leaves are moving and the breeze kicks up. And they're taking all of this in. And it has led to increased health. And it's had such a positive effect that it's become a thing. And now it's made its way over here, and people are getting more into forest bathing.
Forest bathing.
And, I think we're going to see more of this now that information comes to us so readily. If you look for it, there are a lot of things that that are coming out that are really exciting.
And it's almost like we probably knew this years gone by, but things have changed the past few decades, haven't they? People are seeking more meaning in their life. I think we sort of reached that point where, that saturation point of the physical things, material things. We understand, it's cliche, but those things don't make us happy. I mean, we need them. We need a roof over our head. We need to buy food. Yes, there is a need for that, but to just find that balance and perspective, I think people are searching more for it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think just like what you said, they're searching more for it. And there's also the search for more, maybe 80s, 90s, through the ages, it's the search for more. That's how we've evolved. And unfortunately, we've been taught, we've been sold by consumerism that more is more. It's more stuff. It's I can have the pool, and then I can have the house, and then the next house, or the car to go along with that, and then and it's all of this outside stuff. And look, it can contribute to happiness. I want to be real. If someone's living in a dilapidated house and you give them a nicer house, they might be thankful every single day of that house. It might contribute to happiness. Yeah. But will it change something inside? Will it hit that button that I believe most of us are searching for? It's fulfillment and it's purpose. And like you said, it's the taking in of the forest, or communing with nature, or just having a moment where you're with loved ones or family and you're actually present. You're present enough to take in the moment in its entirety, and you have a feeling that comes up based on that moment. That is what we're all searching for. And, we go about it by being on here a lot and trying to connect and do, and then there's likes and there's followers and all this rigmarole. And really what we're trying to find is this deeper connection, and that can only be found within.
Absolutely. Well said. One last thing, just before we finish off, just a couple more things. Also dealing with change, look how our world's changed in the past year. This is a big thing for people. Dealing with change, not being in control, having to adjust to so drastically what we've all been through. So, just if you can just run through a couple of things that you would say to someone with dealing with change, if they're struggling, they've always sort of had their routine, and what you'd say to them regarding that.
Sure. Change can be hard. So I think it's really good to acknowledge that. I see stress and tension when people are fighting against change and then fighting themselves for it. So first and foremost, if you're struggling with change, acknowledge it. Wow, this change is really hard for me. That's true. Just saying that alone is enough to go, okay, that part of you that is struggling is recognized and seen. And then if the river is going one direction, at some point, instead of fighting it, let yourself be carried and see it as an opportunity. Because we want to control everything, right? The human tendency is to control. Why? It's because if we feel that we're in control, then we have an idea of what's coming. It's less scary.
That's right.
Sorry, let me put this. So, it's less scary. right? So, sorry, forgive me one
No
second.
worries. All good.
Um,
That's our
so
life, isn't it? It's
I
part of
know,
it.
right?
You're in demand.
So it's going with the flow and saying, hey, what is the opportunity here? What if this change wasn't against me? What if something horrible
Like that.
isn't going to happen? It might be uncomfortable. I might have to change the way I'm viewing this. I might have to change the way I'm showing up. I might have to change certain elements of my life. But if this is coming, how can I roll with it and use it as the opportunity that it is? I realize this.
Perfect.
That sounds good,
Wow. But it's
right?
true.
Sounds good. When someone is at the precipice of change and they're being pushed and they're looking right over the cliff, that can almost sound like a spiritual bypass, right? Like, oh, yeah, great. What's the opportunity in this? All I'm asking is ask yourself, if it was an opportunity, what is it? Just ask the question. If it's hard for you to embrace that as, okay, this is an opportunity, I'm fully going to go with this, then at least just ask yourself the question, if I am here and this is where I've been brought to, I think it's, I can't remember if it's Hafiz or Rumi who wrote the quote, act as if the universe is rigged in your favor.
Love that.
Act as if the universe is
100%.
rigged in your favor and you are here. Why? What have you been asking for to change? Have you been a little bit bored in your life? Have you been complaining about the job that you're in, or that the relationship is in a stalemate and it's stuck? Why are you here? What is the opportunity?
Wow, you just covered some fantastic things. I just want to quickly go through them just before we finish off. You said that the recognize part, that was powerful to recognize, like how we're feeling, because sometimes we feel a certain way, but we don't look within. It becomes all cluttered. So that first point you mentioned, recognize, okay, I'm feeling a bit uneasy, there's change. And then I liked how you said that the change isn't against us. Look at it as an opportunity. And that's fantastic because, when all this coronavirus started and the world changed and we couldn't leave our homes, you heard people some people sort of fighting against it, but others saying, you know what, I think I need this. I was burnt out. I was depressed, but now I can stay home. I've seen my kids more, I've seen my husband more, my wife more, my partner. That's interesting that you say that. And also, looking like how you said they might be bored. Like a lot of people were in that funk, things weren't right. And then just looking at that opportunity for change. So you said a lot of interesting things there that related to us, what we were going through, to really look for the opportunity, not say, oh, woe is me, I'm stuck in my home. I can only go to the supermarket once today because of the lockdown rules. Well, we can do other things too. I know it gets a bit boring sometimes, but you mentioned some such interesting points there.
Yeah, complacency, right? I mean, when life becomes complacent, it's time for change. And again, there are some real things that happen and there's real struggle. So I want to recognize that. I don't just want to dismiss that. Change is hard, right? I know when I'm going through change, I'm not always good with it. I have a hard time with it. But there's that moment where I'm having such a hard time and I'm holding on so tightly that I'm thinking about something, I'm ruminating about something, I'm not seeing another possibility. And at some point I get so frustrated that something new is birthed, right? I either let go and say, okay, fine, I'm done, I'm tired, what's next, what's new? Or I get frustrated enough to go, what do I want to create here? Like, fine, I'm here, I'm being squeezed, I feel this big and I'm contorted. How am I going to find the way out? Because I have to. And sometimes it takes that to change something that needs to be changed. And we've all we've all been going through that with the pandemic in a way. And I do see it as an opportunity, right? To have something new emerge, because the old and the way that things were, it's a rat race. If life is just a rat race, you're in a race. You're not enjoying what life is. And so, have to switch it at some point.
Yeah. And like you said before, that was interesting when you said, people walking to the top of the mountain, they get to the top and then they walk back. That sort of, when you said that, reminded me of the other point that you made. Exactly. Why do we do anything? Again, finding meaning, not just going one way, coming the other way, not thinking about it. Yeah. All those little steps that you've mentioned, a lot of mindfulness I'm feeling here with the work you do, a very spiritual element. That's very powerful, because there is a huge spiritual element in that people are seeking for. And a lot of people have found that. And a lot of success stories are come down to people finding their spiritual meaning for themselves in their life. Just slowing down and being mindful, like you said.
Slowing down. It's a huge one. It is a huge one. And again, I'm a business owner. I'm doing a lot of different things. I have 2 daughters and a family, and life is busy. And what I found working with so many people is, I will help you to reach your goal, no matter what it is. But I'm going to make sure that if that goal is reached, you have the goal, and then you have the 3 goals underneath the goal. So you're not just sitting there with the goal and you've worked hard and spent money and said, okay, I have this thing. And actually now what? Now I feel, what's the next thing? I thought I focused so much time and attention on getting this thing, and then now I have it. It's like people who go, I just want $1 million, or in this day and age, maybe 10 million. If I had 10 million, my life, everything would be solved. I'd feel so much better. And somehow they get it. It's even harder for those people because they get it. And sure, it alleviates a lot of problems. Yeah. But they still have to meet themselves. All the same feelings that they had, some of the anxiety, some of the fears, some of the confidence, it's all there. Nothing has changed.
Yeah, that's right. Fantastic. Gee, wise words. Yeah, fantastic. Now, how can people contact you if they want to speak with you?
Sure. Go to my website, randyspelling.com. And I'm also on social. Instagram is Randy Spelling, and Facebook is Randy Spelling Coaching.
Excellent. Any last words you'd like to share with our listeners?
Let me see what is specific for your listeners. I just heard this thing yesterday, and it seems really apropos, is focus on the space between us. We're so taught sometimes to focus on ourselves or each other. And I think, haven't thought this out, I'm saying this in the moment, it's focusing on the space between. If you look at the cosmos and the intelligence of the planets and the moon and the revolutions, and everything is revolving around each other. We focus on the stars and the planets, right? They're glimmery, they're shiny, they're beautiful, and they're in our science books. But what about the space in between that's holding it all together? And I think in our lives, just to ground this, how can you create space, right? Just even in a moment when you're with a friend, what is the space? Maybe you want to light a candle. Maybe you want to make a cup of tea. Maybe you just want to go outside and breathe in fresh air and have a conversation. But if you focus on the space and not the event, you will get a deeper, richer experience that will pay off in dividends.
Perfect. I can sort of sense the creative, artistic side in you too when you say that, because it reminds me, I've finished acting classes now, but I was doing acting for about 5 years, just classes, just for a fun thing on the side once a week. And, the Wonderful. Teachers would say the space in between, we don't always have to say something. It's just, even when I asked you if there's any last things you'd like to say, and I liked it how you sort of just thought about it and waited, and you just, that space is powerful because it's just powerful. You know what I mean? I'm sure the listener understands too. It's like in movies when there's that, just the look of the actor, no one's saying anything. It's just amazing.
Yeah, you're so right. And I love that you're saying this. It's not just my background, but having the background of being an actor. And, I think that everybody should take acting classes. I think everybody should take improv classes, because you get to connect to yourself, to your emotions. You get to really listen to the other person that you're doing a scene with. And a lot of times we're running around, right? And it's like, oh, I have to formulate what I'm thinking while you're talking. But in acting, you really have to listen, because you're reacting off of what that person is giving you, facial expressions, everything. And yes, it is the space. I mean, I know when I'm watching something and someone takes a deep pause, or they're really letting the emotion come out, I'm almost in tears, because I can feel it. I can feel what's happening when nothing's being said. And those moments are so powerful.
And movies and film reminds us as humans how we are so intuitive too, because we can pick, a good actor, not a good actor, a good scene, and not a good scene, a good film, not a good film. Everything is so intuitive, isn't it? You'd understand all this from your background too.
Yeah, but it's great. It's great to illustrate. It's great to point out. It really is. It's all of it, right? So yeah, it's important.
Perfect. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you. That was fun.
Thank you so much. So take care. What time is it there now in Portland? 5 o'clock
It
ish?
is 4, almost 5.
So it's dinner time soon.
Yeah, soon. A little bit more work and then off to dinner.
Oh, thank you so much for giving us your time. Nice to meet you, Randy.
Yeah, thank you. You too, Bianca.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.